Welcome back, dear friends. Ever so exciting. Oh, the last few days have been a roller coaster of emotions. The highs, the lows, the tears, the laughter. Because I have been, as is my wont, tenaciously trying to sort out serial communication. How ridiculous. I've realised, I think, why it's so complicated. Because normally with Arduinos and things like that, you are monitoring switches, you're monitoring sensors, and it's a fairly safe bet. You know, you can just keep cycling around, just checking, has someone switched it on yet? If they have, do something. If not, don't do anything. However, serial communication is bonkers. I know it isn't, because the whole internet sort of works on it, so it's brilliant. Reading data and then sending it down a wire one bit after another and then reassembling it at the far end. I'm not good at reassembling it at the far end, let alone reading it or anything else. But I think I've managed it, finally. What I've managed to do is another of my stupid ideas. Why I can't just leave things alone and think, that works, let's move on to the next part of the project. No, I suddenly decided, I've got the SD card there, which stores her singing, Victoria the Automaton, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice if the arrays that control the fret moving and the plucking and timing and things could also be stored on there, because that would allow me in effect to store several different tunes and things and be able to plug it in, unplug it and easily upload it, because originally all the arrays, I think they're 8K in size, all resided on the beautiful little Mega there in ProgMem, because they took up so much space, and obviously you can't adjust them easily like that. So that was my raison d'etre, so to speak, and several days later I've managed to achieve it, I think. What it now does, when you tell it to play, it sends a command through the infamous black, grey and white wires to the Teensy, which then says, okay, you want me to play? What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the CSV file off the SD disk, oh how I hate acronyms, and then put it into virtual arrays, and then send, each time another lot is requested, I'm just going to read the next position in the array, send the data back through the wires to the Mega, that's then going to use it to set up the frets for the next note and then to pluck it and get the timing right. And I think I've managed it, having had all sorts of catastrophes. Let's see, hang on, I'll get it going. Just going to upload it. So we'll see what it will do. It should make a strange noise when it does. If this works, it's going to be brilliant, because then always do the most unpleasant things first. Like I used to eat all the vegetables and roast dinners and save the potatoes and the Yorkshire puddings for last. It's a bit like that, because, oh yeah, the noise, because I'm desperate to get on with getting Victoria the Automaton actually singing and moving her lips and moving her eyes and all this stuff. But I've made myself do this first. Right, moment of truth. Cease all, play melody. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, that is just brilliant. I'm so pleased, because it's actually doing so much in the background. And what is amazing is that all these notes and fret positions are being sent through, in effect, two wires. Requests going that way and the requested data going that. That's incredible. I take back everything I said about serial data. Brilliant. And the timing as well, it's doing it so quickly each time. And using the millisecond thing to time each note and set each note. Oh, that's really good. I seem to remember the first note wasn't quite right, so I'll have a look at that one. Oh. Now, oh, look at that key change. What a joy. This wretched fret thing for the highest string, which is, if I have a look down here, A. Oh, and the plucking, that was the other thing. If you watched the last video, the plucking is working an absolute treat. It's absolutely thrilling. Every note is now playing perfectly. Anyway, this is rattling. Because the string's hanging off the edge, because I couldn't fit it all together, I had to move the string out at the top. This is now, you can hear it rattling, and it is this one. It really is. So I'm going to sort that out first, actually. Keep putting off working on Victoria. I'll get back to you and hopefully we have nice, clean, pure notes. That's lovely. Oh. Little flickering LEDs. Oh. It's actually quite a long piece of music. Right, stop it. Get on with it. I shouldn't be allowed to play with things like bytes. Just stick with integers. This little function just gets sent a byte that it sends off to Teensy via the serial interface, which I thought was to blame, but obviously actually it's working properly. And then the Teensy does stuff, like for example playing frequencies. Everything works, I'll show you. So the Mega has sent out a 1 to tell it not to do anything. Let's switch this to play melody, and you can see it's sending out requests for more notes, having sent out a 2, and that's lovely. Now let's try and tune A. Now that is not A. I've looked it up, when it's sent out 136. It should be sending out 392. Can you see where we're going with this? Yes, I really shouldn't be allowed to play with bytes. The times I've done that, thinking, oh, never need a bigger number than that, let's turn it into a byte. And then you get on and program other stuff, and you suddenly, hopefully before too long, realise that's why it's all going wrong. What an idiot. There we are, turned back into a lovely int, which will allow me to send through, obviously, much bigger numbers, including the frequencies. Now it's uploading, so let's see what that does. Okay, A. That's better. It's not in tune. I'll turn the volume down a bit as well. That's better. E. Yes. C. Yeah. Brilliant. God, I tell you what, this project would be far easier without me constantly trying to screw things up. Absolutely ridiculous, but one step nearer. I can't tell you how excited I am today. Something has arrived. I think it's the most exciting thing probably on the whole planet. It's in this box. What could it be? I'll show you. I haven't tried them yet, and I only discovered they were even a thing earlier in the week. Now I have a problem, because I've got the Automaton head, Victoria, the singing head. Mouth, no problem, that'll sing along. The eyes blink, that's no problem. But what to do with all these servos and things that I thought would be a bright idea to include in us? Her eyes move up and down, left and right. Her whole head goes left and right. What and how could I use that? Until I discovered this. Oh, I don't know whether you can see that or it'll focus. That is a person detector. I mean, it's just amazing. I haven't wired it up yet. I will try it. There's a little video camera on the front. It needs to be that way up apparently, I think. And there's a very powerful processor on the back, and it looks for faces and will send you back the coordinates of all the faces it finds. I mean, what? That's unbelievable. I'm just, well, I'm not speechless because I'm speaking. That's fantastic, because using one of these means that I can get Victoria the Automaton to watch people as they walk up to the machine. So she'll be able to follow them with her eyes, and then while she's singing she'll be able to watch them, and her eyes will move and to follow all these people where they're looking. I mean, that's just mind-blowingly exciting. I can't tell you. I mean, the technology, I suppose, has been around for a long time. I can't stop gazing at it, actually. It's a thing of beauty. the technology's been around for a long time because, you know, with digital cameras, if you take a picture of a group of people, it immediately, you see all the little squares and rectangles around all the faces. So the technology's been there, and I seem to remember watching a YouTube video on how it does it, and it looks for the pattern, like a T, a slightly darker T pattern, the eyes, nose and things. I think something like that. Forget ukuleles and stuff now. First thing I'm now going to do is wire this up and see what happens, and I will get back to you. That's amazing. Look how small it is. Well now, I've got it wired up there to a spare Arduino, which is printing a sketch on GitHub, and it's a bit strange because, as you can see, it's not spotting any faces at the moment. I'm very pleased to say I found out what the problem was. It was the lighting, big strip lights that it was facing towards basically, and was confusing it. So I've turned them off and just left the lights in front of me to highlight my beautiful facial features, and it works. So now I can move all round. I noticed it was only spotting me when I was sitting in a certain position, but now I can move quite a long way away. I've also just changed the sketch a little bit so it only prints information when there is a face found, and you can see that it tells you how many faces are found. Luckily only one. 69% confidence, so it's got like a percentage of confidence that it is a face, and then the bounding boxes up to 255, so it's a rectangle or a square 255 by 255. Isn't that amazing? That is so exciting. I can't wait for my family to come home so we can gather round and be scanned. Oh, how the evenings will fly by. So, right, I don't know what, well, I do know what I'm going to be doing next actually, because it's that time again. Time to take the dog for a walk, isn't it? Gonna go for a walk? Yeah, she looks so hard done by after a hard day sleeping on her bed. Right, and it looks like it's going to rain. I will get back to you later. It's so nice taking the dog for a walk. Just clears your mind, or get all over fevered and stuff. Fever pitch regarding the ability to find faces. Calm down, take it in the afternoon in fact. In the morning I walk round the park as fast as I can for my exercise. The dog gets frustrated and goes off and has adventures. In the afternoon, however, I cycle round the park so that we can both hunt together. I think that's how she sees it for squirrels. Just, you know, I can finally keep up with the other member of the pack, so to speak. And it's really nice. So I came back and I've had a thought, or 10. Now the next question is where to position the person sensor. It's quite a nice name for it really. I was thinking that it could go in the enclosure that she's going to be in. Alternatively, she could be wearing one of those sort of jewellery things, like a little gem that hangs down in the middle of her forehead, and that's where the camera could go. Because the camera is ever so small, as you can see. I could possibly disguise it in the centre of a gem or something. I'm not sure yet. Because the thing is, if the camera's installed in the enclosure that I'm looking forward to starting to build, because that's the other decision I had to make, decision 2, stop getting carried away with everything, build an enclosure for her. If I can either have it fixed in there, looking out, in which case this 255 by 255 grid that it's looking at will be stationary, and then she can move to look at things, or I can have it mounted in her head, in which case it means if something moves and she's not looking at it, she has to keep moving her head to sort of find it again. I'm not sure. I think I need to do some experimenting, but as I decided yesterday whilst walking the dog, first job is to build an enclosure for her. And thank you to everyone who replied and suggested, said whether they thought she should be sitting on here, on the ukulele playing machine, or in her own enclosure, for saying it should be her own enclosure. I am in agreement, because I was thinking, I really want to start going to steampunk events and things, and I'd obviously have to take this with me, and it's huge and weighs a ton. How the hell do you get that in a car or something? Especially if you've got an automaton head sitting up here. I'm thinking about basing her enclosure on the way that I did the Is It Time for Tea machine. I really like the fact that she's enclosed with a sort of semicircular shaped back. I do like the look of that, especially with the lovely embroidered red fabric behind it that hides the loudspeakers. And luckily I've already got 2 loudspeakers on top of the freezer that I've been saving for years to finish off Victoria. How exciting. And she's such a complicated shape, I've decided just to do some experiments with bits of wood. And I've come up with a design I'm very pleased with. It's just right. It's going to come far enough forward so that her nose is protected, just above her head. She's going to sit on a base underneath which can have the works in. Because I'm trying to keep this as small as possible, I'm going to have the speakers probably in the cabinet underneath. So we've ended up with this. It didn't take very long at all. I'm really pleased. Now I've got to work out how to actually create, how to build it. Yeah, but that's it basically. I'll get back to you. It's all starting to come together. I just thought my wife asked me to do a towel wash. So I went upstairs thinking, oh, I really just want to get on with this. But in the laundry room, well, the box room floor, I found another one of these. Brilliant. I think they were serviettes, napkins or something that we got free with something. Perfect, because the one that I used before, I rediscovered again, it's very morrow, and it's got a stain on it, and that's all that was left after I installed it behind Florence, the automaton. So I've got another one, which is brilliant. And I've been thinking about it, and I'm going to make these side panels and the back one from ply. In fact, this very piece of ply here, and I'm going to laser cut some lovely Gothic arches out. Because I can't really route ply because you're just going to look, it's looking horrible. And I don't think having windows actually cut out through here is going to look very good, because if you're looking at her you don't want to see what's out there, you just want to have her in a nice little enclosure. So I'm going to make Gothic arches to fit on the inside, just have a nice little rebate then, and the same on the outside. It's so exciting when you face a bit daunting, thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to start? And it all slowly falls into place, from fabric to plywood. What's he cutting out on the laser cutter? Well, I took me measurements over to the computer so I could just draw out how to fix this together with the thicknesses and the corners and everything. Then I've cut out the 2 side panels and the back panel from really quite horrible pieces of plywood. I mean, look at the state of this. It's awful. Cheapest, nastiest, but mustn't grumble, because it's all going to be hidden away. I was thinking, how can I do that? Wouldn't it be nice to have some sort of design on these? So, hence the laser cutting. On the outsides of the sides, you see it all, I'm going to have that just glued on and then stained. The dark bits are engraved sort of part way through, so it gives the idea of little twiddly bits, and I think that looked really nice, all just stained the same colour. That's extending over the edge because it needs to fold around somewhere there or something. So I've got 2 of them done. I'm just cutting out the shorter ones that are going to go on the inside, which will be in here, because obviously they need to stop about there, so all Victoria's works can go underneath. Funny enough, I got the idea for this using the Gothic arches and that funny little floret thing from this unit that I built when I was building the extension on the kitchen. I stupidly built in 2 huge speakers that go up, sort of reverb speakers into the ceiling, and then had to hide these boxes that were coming down on the wall. Thought, I know, I'll build a nice little Victorian style Gothic cabinet. So I did that, and then later on wanted to put the boiler somewhere. It's nothing to do with the story, but the central heating boiler. And I thought, well, how can I hide that? I know, I'll make a bookcase. And the funny thing is, my wife had been living here for 10 years before she realised that actually they aren't books. They're just made up bits of wood with silly titles. It's great fun for the first few, and you realise it's really difficult to keep coming up with these titles. Anyway, that's another story. Oops. But it just shows you, because I built that, God, that must be 20 years, 25 years ago, without even knowing anything about steampunk. How? How was I unaware? this is coming together very nicely and is most enjoyable. I love doing this sort of thing. You know, one minute you're programming and stuff and you're doing some electronics and 3D printing and then solving problems, and then you've got the excuse to make some lovely woodwork, and I'm very pleased with what it looks like. So I haven't made anything like this before, but it's looking delightful. I haven't used any nails or pins or screws. I've just glued the whole thing together, and it fits beautifully right down to the really complicated little joints at the back that overlap. That's lovely, and I'm being very careful not to get glue everywhere. What I'm doing at the moment is the twiddly bits. You know I love twiddly bits. Look, I've cut the ends so it matches this. Oh, the fun never stops. I've made the base that her head's going to sit on, so my next job is then to drill a couple of screw holes and have little brass screws on the outside holding it, so that if I want to, I can take it out. And then once I've got all this done, I can stain it all. I can't wait. Let's talk about speakers. I need to mount 2 speakers. They're quite powerful because there's an amazing little Class D amplifier that runs off 5 volts, perfect for all this. I used on the Is It Time for Tea machine 20 watts per speaker. It's incredibly powerful because it uses MOSFETs that switch on and off rather than sort of linearly changing their resistance in effect. They're sort of more like pulse width modulation. Very powerful. So here's a speaker. Again, it is the speaker, or speakers, one of 2 that I used with the Is It Time for Tea machine, and it works really nicely. Very, very little distortion, really nice. And it's interesting because you can actually see, that's better, you can see how speakers are actually, the cones are mounted. It's interesting because it happens to be transparent. We have a solution, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased with this. Just cutouts, a little bit of engraving for the speakers, and then a window in the centre, sorry it's not focusing, which will have some sort of moving animated mechanism inside. And the twiddly bits, they will work perfectly. I'm going to halve the twiddly bits to make these vertical bits. Dear oh dear. If you want to do something, make sure you overdo it. But I'm pleased. I'll get that laser cut and I can get on with it. I'm pleased with that. I think that's going to look great. Speakers sitting behind there. I also cut out 2 slightly smaller bits to reinforce this, a millimetre smaller, just to give a nice stepped appearance. Now I've got the twiddly bits done around these edges. The cold light of another day, having lain awake at night thinking about things, realising actually that putting the speakers in the front means the speakers need to be enclosed in a sort of airtight box because of the acoustics of it, and I need ventilation around the Teensy and all the other bits and pieces. So executive decision number 3456, put the speakers in the back like I did with the Is It Time for Tea machine. So I drilled a hole with the lovely fly cutter and then found the hole for the second speaker wouldn't fit on the pillar drill. What a pain. So now I'm going to resort to the lovely routing jig with its lovely base that I made with a prong on it. So I've set that up. The great thing is that it will reach. I can put that anywhere. So I'm going to carefully cut that out without trying desperately not to ruin everything else. There's the bit I cut out of the fly cutter, and the top tip of the fly cutter is going from one side halfway through roughly, and then going from the other side, and you get a perfectly clean eel both sides. Lovely. And there we have it. 2 beautifully mounted speakers with this piece of laser cut ply that I can stretch the fabric over, and it'll keep it away from the speaker cones. And round the back there's not much, it doesn't stick out that much, so I'm going to make a nice little thing to support them. And I've got the beautiful front panel with all its twiddly bits put on, and where the speakers were going to go are now going to be air vents. So I'll have the window in the middle to see some sort of exciting thing moving, working Victoria, and then an air vent either side. Now I don't know whether to use this stainless steel mesh or this bent up filthy brass mesh. To wait and see. Anywho, thank you very much for watching. Hope you found it enjoyable and interesting. It is so lovely to be able to bring together interests in electronics and computing and woodwork, just hands-on, not too planned, working as you go along, making stuff is so enjoyable. I can't wait till next time. If you've got any questions, please let me know in the comments, and remember to click subscribe and like if you do like this sort of thing. See you next time.